Hey everyone, what's up? Welcome back to my channel, Koki Creative. My name is Elena and I'm a part of the EA Creator Network. Today we're doing a speed build. It is a tiny container home and it is a tiny house, so it is labeled as such, but I wanted it to look big, so I use these debug shipping container that is either from Eco Lifestyle or its base game. They have one of each in debug, so if you just have base game, there is a shipping container. So I'm using that to make it look a little bit different. So the color palette is red, blue, and yellow, aka primary colors. And I love the way primary colors look together, which makes total sense. They are like the building block of colors. You can mix them with each other, one with the other, and it creates all new colors. Pretty much these are all the colors, the base of them. So I just love the way they look when you mix them together. And I found these yellow debug support poles in Eco Lifestyle Debug, and I love the color of them. They really popped, so I used those, and obviously I said earlier I used those debug containers, so I did use a couple of debug items to just kind of dress it up, make it look a little bit different. Before I upload this to gallery, I put this on a different lot, one that's in Evergreen Harbor. It looks way better. It just doesn't really fit this lot that well, so just you'll see in the screenshots it just looks a little bit better. And in the beginning of the video I had a little clip of it in the proper town. It's so funny how where you build it really makes a difference. So I'm using Control F for quarter tiles. This can help with making either designs or doing something like I'm doing here with making diagonal walkways, anything that's on a diagonal. And I'm just messing around with the shape here. I do a couple of different things before I change my mind to make this another walkway here, but I just wanted to play around with some blocks of colors, thought putting a little blue there would look cool, but I don't really like the pale shade of blue that this floor comes in. This is the blue that you see on the floor. That's the concrete that comes when you just lay a floor down. So it's a different swatch. That concrete, that's $0. That's like the base concrete, is comes in a ton of different swatches. So the white that you see that I use there is also from the concrete, the just regular base game concrete. I just love that it comes in different swatches. So when I play around with some designs earlier, you're going to see me fiddle around with that. Before I get too far in rambling about just the flooring, let me talk about what I'm using to build this. So I'm using two packs. I'm using the Eco Lifestyle pack and Desert Luxe kit. So for the Desert Luxe kit, I am really only using some flooring in the kitchen. So if you don't have Desert Luxe, it's really not a big deal. I just really like this one flooring. But I'm also using a custom content pack by CC, who's a good friend of mine, and I always love supporting their awesome CC. The pack is called Love for Modern Windows. So I'm only using that CC for this, and that's sort of why I built this too, because I saw these windows and it just really inspired me. I love the circle window out front, and these windows reminded me of the windows that came with Eco Lifestyle, the one with the very thick frame. So I just was really inspired to build something that kind of reminded me of the Eco Lifestyle pack. So obviously I had to go with Container Home. And I do love the way the windows make this look. I just really feel like it is the curb appeal that I'm looking for. Sorry, I couldn't think of the words that I wanted to use. But I do have... I say it as if I already did this. I need to do this. But I'm going to be, before I upload this video, making a no CC version of this build, and we'll be uploading it to the gallery. I will try my best to replace the windows with something that looks at least half as good as what this looks like. So keep an eye out for that. But if you want to download the CC version, you can download it. Check out the link in the description below, and you can download the CC version. I have a link to Sixum's CC pack. Oh my god, I can't talk. Love for Modern Windows. So if you want to go and download that to have everything function, I'm not going to include that in. I'm not going to include that in my stuff when you download this. You're going to have to download it separately because I want to bring some traffic over to them so they can get more people downloading their awesome CC. They have a lot of really cool CC. So anyway, for the plants, I use the same color palette that I've been using the rest of the house. We have red, blue, and yellow. I just kind of tuck them in here. I'm trying something a little different. I didn't want to do my overgrown look that I usually always do, but I do still fit in a couple of areas where I make it really green and flowery, and you'll see that later. But for the front, I wanted it to look a little bit more cleaned up, so I used this extra fence and a little bit of bushes in between to just have a little pop of color there in the greenery. So now I'm using the Control F again to make some designs, and I tried out a couple of different designs, but then I went with this really basic diamond colorful pattern because I didn't want it to be too much. I know it is pretty colorful, but I didn't want it to be overbearing. I skipped ahead. I didn't show all of the diamonds being placed down because I'm pretty sure you got the gist of it. Now we're doing the backyard where it's a little awkward shape because of the shape of the house. This is a 30 by 20, so I didn't have a lot of land to play with, but I was cleaning up the lines here. I'm just getting an idea of what I want to do because at this point I was not sure what I wanted to commit to. I was thinking about just having it being plain right there and just having a tree on either side, but I do end up doing more landscaping later, and I'll get to that in a bit. But here I'm trying to figure out how to get my Sims upstairs. That was a big challenge in such a small house and where it only has a tiny bit of overlapping in the inside. So I knew that I couldn't put the ladder on the inside. I mean, I could, but then the layout would be severely compromised. So I decided to put the ladder outside, but it's a diagonal, so I couldn't place the stairs just up against the wall. So I made this little bump out, and as you can see, your sim can get up and down. It's all play tested, just like all my builds, unless stated otherwise. So I'm just trying to make the little area up here kind of cute, since your sim will have to go up here in order to get to the bedroom and the only bathroom in the house. So yes, they will have to go up the stairs, but I did add a bush in the yard in case the sims really had to go to the bathroom and they didn't have time to climb up the ladder, since I know that takes a while. I just don't want any accidents if I can help it. There just wasn't room for a bathroom downstairs, so I did with what I could with the space that I had. I also added some skylights with roof pieces, and also off the bedroom there is that big window as well that I used a roof piece and clear glass roof siding. You know what I mean. I made a big window out of a roof piece, and I had to play around with it a lot. I am cutting a lot out of the video where I'm fiddling around trying to make it a little better. I couldn't open it up because then the tile amount would go over 100, since this is a tiny home, and I'm trying to keep the tile count under 100. So, and then just being a window. So anyway, let me talk about what I just did there. I saved gallery art to my library, but you can look it up through the gallery if you'd want. But there's all different kinds of things. Gallery art is no CC, so when you upload with these numbers or any kind of gallery art in your build, it will not flag it as CC, which is great. You can download all this stuff from the gallery in-game, and it's not custom content. I'll put who I used on the screen right here so you know who to look for. Here is like an outdoor seating area. I wanted it to be a little green. I was thinking about replacing that those like white trellis gardens, vertical gardens, with actual vertical gardens that come with Eco Lifestyle, but for now I just placed the ones that are just for decoration. So if you're playing and you want some garden space, that is a great spot to replace those with the vertical gardens that come with Eco Lifestyle. Now we're getting to more gardening, and this is where I kind of go with my usual style, a little bit more lush, but I use the same exact flowers that I used earlier, so that way it all matches. And since this is on the side of the building, I just kind of wanted it to be a little lush over here. I mean, why not? I love the way this looks to kind of layer on top of each other. It just looks very romantic. I mean, I wouldn't consider this a very romantic house, but I just think flowers and bushes are very pretty. This house is really good for 1 or 2 Sims. I really would not suggest a family living in here unless if you're willing to make it a regular house, not a tiny house, and to expand a little bit, because I squeezed in as much as I could in this little thing, and I don't know how a second bedroom would do. Or I guess you could add a crib to the bedroom. To dress up this container home, I added this base game planter to the top of it. It is a base game, like I just said, and you can find it if you have better build by. the mod, Better Build By, you can find it really easily in the flower section, either flowers or bushes. It's one of those items that I love using all the time. It just adds a lot of character. I love the curves to it because a lot of stuff in The Sims is very angular when it comes to like building stuff, like greenery and stuff. Everything has to be on that grid line, so I kind of like that it adds like a wall that's very curved. It's very pretty. And this took me a while because I had to lift up with the 9 key all of these flowers. So, and I was trying to find a few more than just the ones that I used down on the main level. I wanted to have just a little bit more lush, a little bit more height. So that way from the ground you could see the flowers and the leaves from those like bushes from the floor. So that's why it just took me a while. It would be cool to actually make a deck up here, but again, it would not be a tiny house anymore since I used pretty much the most amount that I could use. One thing that really bothers me, and I almost turned this into a regular size house because of this. If you see that the red part, the second story where the bedroom is, the top lip of it, because it's not like a roof per se, I couldn't add the trim to the top. And so there's like this tiny little line of gray, if you look at it, and I hate that. I wish I could add the trim like I put at the bottom at the top of the roof of the red house. It's trimless. I'm so sorry. I would have loved to add trim, but I needed to close in that roof in order to do it. And then that would like add to my tile account. I do play around with the backyard for a little bit. I always end the exterior with the backyard. This is usually where I add like the fun stuff. So I always add a grill. I was just trying to figure out where to put the grill. It takes me a while to kind of figure out the layout, especially in a weird angular layout like this. Those teeny tiny pools too, the triangle ones, your Sims can swim in it. And I wasn't even trying to playtest this. It's just my Sim was just hopping in there when I was loading the lot. So yeah, your Sims can totally swim in those teeny tiny pools. They're more of just for looks, but like if your Sims can get enjoyment out of it, then why not? Yeah, they've got a whole in-ground pool in the backyard. I also make it pretty lush back here too. I kind of have a little bit of fun. I didn't really know what I wanted to do with this walkway. And there isn't really, so I put the grill, I move it in a little bit, and I put the tables and chairs kind of further away from the grill. Realistically, I'm like, oh, do they really want to walk that far with their food? Like, whatever, it's The Sims. So if you think that the grill and the table are a little too far apart, I'm sorry. Sorry, but it's just the best spot I could think of. I'm almost done with the exterior. I just have to finish up this little bit of gardening. There was this green space between the pool and the pavement, so I decided to just make it a little bit lush because why not? So I did my usual trick. Those are low-lying pale yellow flowers. Base game, love them. I use them as the base in most of my flower beds. They just, when you just place down flower bushes, a lot of the time you see the floor underneath, and I found that these low-lying pale yellow flowers are the best way for you to have your gardens feel a little bit fuller. And sometimes it's hard for me to say certain words, so I'm sorry if I say blah, blah, blah. Sorry if it sounds like I have a mouthful of marbles. I just talk fast and I stumble over my words a lot. So anyway, we are inside the house now. This is the downstairs, and I use the same siding as I did on the outside. Also, this is the only place where I use the Desert Luxe kit. So if you don't have Desert Luxe and you want to download this, that's it. Right in the kitchen. So just put something else down there. It's not going to change your life if you don't have that. And so the kitchen here, I play around with a couple different layouts. I clip those out because no one has time for that. I use the same items though. So I shifted over to this wall. I add a little partition in the middle, make that a red accent wall, kind of like a moody maroon red accent wall. So it's a little different than this like bright, vibrant red accent wall. For the above counters, I wanted there to be something a little different. So instead of lining up with the top of that corner cabinet, I kind of made shelves out of them with these half cabinets. I also downsized them just a little bit with Tool Mod because their regular size was just a little bit too big. You see that little black line hanging from the side of the cabinets there. I end up deleting that, so just don't pay attention to that. It was a design idea that I just didn't end up liking the way it looked. But I did add these little shelves here. I just kind of like the spacing for them because, like, let's say you're cooking in the kitchen, you're going to just have easy access to this shelf. So I put in maybe like some cookbooks. That's what those are supposed to be. Some spices, and I know that's like a red dye on that, but I kind of thought maybe that looks like some sort of food thing. So I also put that on the shelf. I always try to think about if the items on the shelves make sense. Like, I try not to put tissue boxes too high up on shelves because I go, you probably will only put a tissue box in a place where it's easy to grab. So that's just an example of, I try to be mindful, even though these things like do not matter. They do not matter at all. So do whatever you want in your game, but it is something I do think about. Just like I don't like to put items in front of windows. I have changed out layouts just so I can make sure that my kitchen cabinets don't go in front of the windows. I hate the way that looks. I use the same table and chairs as I use outside because I just thought those looked perfect with the space, and I really love the way this kitchen turned out. It's small, but I really think that it has a good open feel to it. It doesn't feel like cramped, and I love that I was able to use that red stove. That's a base game stove. It's one of the cheaper ones. I rarely use it because usually I just use this stainless steel one that's pretty nice, but I did want this to also be on a bit of a budget. I mean, it's still 73,000 simoleons, so it's not like cheap, but it's under 100,000 simoleons, and your sim can earn that much wealth within a generation. So I finished up the kitchen with adding like little pops of color, a little bit more clutter, a little something on top of the fridge because I like to do that. Just makes it feel a little bit more lived in. I move on to the living room, which is just right next door. But before I do that, like I said earlier, this is a one bathroom house, so I made sure to add a bush outside in case of emergencies. So here in the living room, I added bookcases on this little wall, and because I wanted to have it flush against the wall, I had to put them together and they're overlapping, and when I play tested that didn't work. So instead I sized them down. I do this off camera. I sized them down, and then I ended up having all this space in the wall. So I ended up putting a TV here. So this living room will have a TV when you download it, which is much better than not having a TV. It's much faster bringing your Sims fun level up, especially if they're not bookworms. Sorry if this feels a little off topic, but I had to do this voiceover in multiple parts, so it is a new day. And I did upload the no CC version of this to the gallery, so grab that now if you want. But anyway, what I wanted to mention, this build was completely my idea. No requests, no collab. I just wanted to do something that was totally me, and I love weird builds. I love builds that aren't for everyone, and I love going in with no plan and seeing what comes out the other end. And this is exactly that. And I made a sim for this build, and I can't wait to put her in all of my saves living in this house. This is her now, and if you're familiar with my sim Wendy, she is Wendy's cousin. If you're not familiar with Wendy, that's all right. You'd have to be following me for a while to really understand her lore. She goes all the way back to January 2021, but I'd love to do something with her in the future. So anyway, this is the bedroom / office space. It has an ensuite. It's really important to me that the colors were balanced properly. I didn't want too much of one color versus the other, so I had to play around with the swatches quite a bit. That doesn't just go for the bedroom, that goes for the entire house. And I kind of was wanting to redo the way I did the window here because I didn't like the way it was open. I tried to have the wall open to that kind of sloped window part. I didn't like the way it didn't like close off the room, so the lighting was all weird, so I just added a wall there and a big window, and it was just as good. Sometimes I have to move the windows out of the way in order for the curtains to be exactly where I want it to be, but that is a simple trick that you can do without using any mods or anything. So if you ever are wondering how to get your curtains to fit properly, sometimes you just have to move them. I think I ended up replacing that painting. So while I do like that yellow, purple sunglasses person, they're not purple, they're pink. I like that painting a lot, but it didn't quite match because it has some other shades in there. So I ended up replacing it with the clown painting. If you are familiar with that one, you can always put this one back if you do not like clowns. But I always try to find a space for that clown painting, and this was the time to use it. So this is the office. It's just like a little desk, and it has a TV above as if it could possibly be a second monitor, but you can also lay in bed and watch the TV, which is also great. I feel like your Sims would probably spend a lot of time upstairs with this build instead of like up and down. I mean, the kitchen is downstairs, but I kind of like that this has a lot of living area upstairs. I mean, if you have to make that trek up there, up the ladder to be up here, you might as well make it worth it. So before I finish up this build, I'll just tell you kind of what I've been up to in real life. If you've made it this far, maybe you want to know, maybe you don't, just mute if you don't. But I'm finally back home after being away for almost 4 months, helping my dad out with his cancer treatment. And after surgery and all that stuff, he is cancer-free now, so that's absolutely wonderful. He still has a ways to recover. I won't get into it, but he's doing really great. But that kind of took up a lot of my time, and understandably so. I'm really thankful I had that time to go spend with him and my family. It's very far away from where I live, so I hadn't been home all that time. I didn't have my dog. I love my dog, but I'm really grateful to have all that time spent with not just my dad, but like my cousins, my grandparents, all that stuff. So I really did not have a lot of time to dive into my Sims build. I tried editing like YouTube videos, but there was absolutely no way that I could. I mean, I was driving my dad to all the hospital visits, and also just like when we were home, I kind of just wanted to relax a little bit. So I am back now, and life is good. My dad is well, and now we're just going to finish up this build. We only have a couple minutes left, so this is, at first I hated this bathroom. At first I was like, there's no way I'm going to end up liking this. But after changing around the swatches, making the walls white, which made a huge difference, I ended up loving this bathroom. I like what I did with the mirrors because I just wanted to make sure I was incorporating the 3 colors in here, and I think that turned out pretty fun. Especially with only a couple of packs that I'm using, there was really only so much that I could do. This is my favorite part of any build, by the way. It's the last room. It means the project is almost over, and don't get me wrong, I love building. I love the whole thing, but my favorite is when it's complete. I get to look at it, I get to take pictures, I get to do videos, I get to admire my work. But no, in all honesty, it is really exciting, and that's kind of when I see the light at the end of the tunnel, and I'm able to just, you know, bask in the fact that I finished another build. Thank you so much for watching today. This build is called RYB Container Home, and you can download the no CC version in the gallery under Koki Creative, or the CC version with the link in the description box. If you liked today's video, don't forget to like and subscribe, especially since I actually have 4 videos lined up as we speak. Maybe leave a comment, let me know what you think, but I hope you all have a lovely day, and I'll see you next time. Bye!